I've been studying some of the Satanism. David Icke really goes into this, and he says that most of the Illuminati and the secret societies, most of the corporations, businesses, and religions all worship Saturn. Saturn is a very, very big factor in the worship. Almost all the symbols, like the all-seeing eye, it's not the human eye. What the all-seeing eye is Saturn with its rings. If you can just picture Saturn tilted toward you, you see the planet in the middle. That's the eyeball, and the rings around Saturn is the rest of the eye, forming the eye. And the Saturn was worshipped so heavily because before all these changes in our solar system took place, it is said that Earth actually was in orbit around Saturn. And Saturn is basically a dwarf sun. Believe it or not, Saturn puts out more energy from itself than is received by the sun. It's a huge, they call it a planet, but it's really a dwarf sun, and it puts out more energy into the solar system than is received by the sun. So it's a very active, energetic body. And that's what was very, very heavily worshipped by the Illuminati and the reptilians and what? And Egyptians. And so that's where a lot of this worship came from. So when all these events took place, in the aftermath, the planets and dwarf stars like Jupiter and Saturn, they were realigned, and Earth was placed in its present orbit. And according to David Icke's research, what he found was that the people that were running Saturn with all its moons, with all the people living on all the different moons it has, are really the source of the worship that we have today. And in order to amplify the signals where they're coming in, and they are altering the signals from the cause-effect creation, they are actually transmitting information from Saturn. So the rings around Saturn are not natural. The rings around Saturn, believe it or not, were created by the aliens to act as a transmitter, and not only that, they had to bring in the moon. The moon did not exist before all this took place. The moon is an artificial construct that was placed where it is today. It doesn't fit. There's no logic reason for the moon to be where it is. But according to David Icke's research, he says the moon is an amplifier that amplifies the transmissions that are being sent from the reptilians on Saturn, broadcasting frequencies that our DNA picks up and changes our outlook and distorts reality, so we do not see the true picture. We do not see the everything the way we would see it from the real side, which is not distorted. But as long as we're living in this holographic universe, we have to look through, we have to use, as long as we're using our mind, our senses generate the information that we see, and it's very, very distorted. And that distortion comes from the transmissions from Saturn amplified through the moon. Now, what's very interesting about the construct of the moon, I'll just throw this in there, the scientists that have been there, now I don't believe they got there from the Apollo program, but the scientists that have been to the moon, they did some early tests, and they set off charges. Well, first off, they set up some seismic equipment on the moon in different places, and then they set off some charges on the moon to see what would happen. And the first charge was a small charge, explosive they set off, and they said that the moon rang like a bell, which means it was like a hollow bell in a watchtower. It just rang like a hollow like a hollow bell. And then later on, another experiment, they used a much bigger charge, and this next one, they got what sounded like a huge brass gong going off, just a gong, which vibrated for like 35 seconds or something. And then in the 90s, they sent up another big explosion, and this explosion had no feedback whatsoever. They had a huge explosion, and it just died on the spot. And that's when scientists found out that the surface of the moon has a dampening device underneath the surface of the moon. The surface of the moon is just covered with titanium that was melted and flowed out on the surface to act as a titanium surface to block any meteorites from penetrating the surface of the moon. They found out on that last explosion that all around the moon, which is an artificial construct, they had dampeners to dampen the impact of anything big that hit the moon. And it's just like anybody that's ever studied Cheyenne Mountain. Anybody ever see those videos where they show Cheyenne Mountain, where they have all the officers sitting on heavy-duty springs, so that if a big earthquake or a nuclear bomb goes off outside Cheyenne Mountain, all that energy is absorbed by the spring, so that nobody feels the vibrations in their offices. Well, the moon was constructed the same way. The moon is constructed to absorb all that information, and it's hollow inside. They speculate that a lot of people are living there that are keeping the amplifying equipment functioning to amplify the signals from Saturn that are being directed right at Earth for our DNA to pick up those distorted signals. Now, what are they sending? What are the signals that they're sending? Well, just like we are dealing with on the real side, the secret, I will share the secret to anybody, the secret of getting onto the real side is intent. Intent is the name of the game. That's why we do the new UU for 15 or 20 minutes in the morning and 15 or 20 minutes at night, is we are showing our intent to learn the truth and work with the real guys and get to the real side. Well, the reptilians understand the intent also, and they are sending intent. They are transmitting intent to screw us up and distort our reality. And how do they do that? Well, it's very simple. The main way that the reptilians distort our reality, so living in this cause-effect holographic, I say reality, it's really an illusion, but since we're here and we have to deal with it, they send it primarily through symbols. And that's going to be another study where they have symbols. Almost every corporation, every flag of every government in the world are symbols from Jupiter. From Saturn. They're all Saturnistic symbols, crescents. The crescent flag of the Middle East, the crescent flag of the Soviet Union, all the symbols in the United States government flags and the military. These are all symbols that were originated when Saturn had crescent views before all these Earth changes took place. So anyway, that's where I'm going to wrap it up. I think I've said a mouthful today for everybody, but this is where I would like, if anybody has any comments or would like to add anything to what I said, any comments, please feel free to add anything that you would like.
This is Claudia in Texas. I just wanted to say thank you, Bob. Wow, what a wonderful dissertation. Excellent. All the information that you provided is right on. And the only comment that I would like to make is from the reptilian side, are those creatures that walk among us and control our, so to speak. All of these reptilians come and use the earth as a shopping mall. They look at us and how far we've developed and what they can use in their particular modus operandi of life. One of the things to come in on is that upgrades. Really, things that happened in 1940, we now are beginning to see. Things that happened in the year 2010, oh my goodness, what an upgrade. One of the things to upgrade is that, for my personal experience with the Orions, is that they live for thousands of years and have been on the earth the whole time and manipulating our existence. Things are introduced, and we're tested to see our reaction to new information. Right now, if you look at past history, going back several thousand years, you'll see how religion has evolved, government has evolved, and they keep us right on track in this continual classroom experience. As we go along, our reactions change because the more we become aware of things, the awareness gives us another viewpoint or a better viewpoint. Or like you say, every time we sing the new you, and go on the real side to look at information, we see it from the part that's not distorted. And you're left with the dilemma of, oh, here's real life when I'm awake, and here's real life when I'm asleep. Now, which one is the real one? We have to think about it. And as we go through years of evolution on Earth, we see how the reptilians, it's the same God in every epoch of history. I mean, people who were living in Egypt, people who lived in different parts of the world, a long-lived reptilian can appear as a god in different cultures on different parts of the planet. The Dogon tribe in South Africa really communicated with the people, the creatures in the constellation of Sirius. They have a different type of evolvement, and they have different capabilities. The Orions are more technical, and the Sirian people are more in tune with nature. So it's interesting to see their viewpoint of life, two different angles. The one thing that I want to leave with is that the Orions have the capability to do everything that we are doing with mechanical things to create a hologram. They do it naturally. So they have a better control. They can look at us and command us to not remember something, and we don't. They know how to manipulate our genetic codons, the DNA, and change our viewpoint of stuff. And, of course, the frequency is underlying all of this. So thank you, Bob. That was just fabulous. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Claudia, so much for that. You know, there aren't very many people bringing up this information, and I think it's very crucial to seeing what is real and on this planet, as you all know, that this planet is not going to be long-lived unless we get some major changes to stop the destruction, get that going real soon now. Is there anybody else that would like to add anything?
Hi, this is Tim in Oregon.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this DNA and the hologram and the real self, which doesn't seem to have a physical body with DNA, no eyes and no ears and no smell and taste and touch. And the reason why we came here and all these experiences, whether it's with reptilians that we may have once upon what's called time been ourselves for maybe millions of years to go through all these psychic realms and all these experiences to find out what is real. We're finding out just like the reptilians are not God, so that's not real. We find a comparison compared to like the real universes to get out of these psych realms so we don't have to reincarnate and go through any more of these seemingly hard lessons that what we call life seems to be full of here on Earth, whether it's the reptilians that cause them or our DNA being altered so that we're, instead of real love, don't have it, and why we have these wars for the reptilians or their representatives to, it's like if we're here to be slaves, if we came here to be slaves to see, or for these reptilians to learn the experiences of what isn't real, like in the real universes, we're not slaves, we're free beings of real light. So all of these experiences here in the psych realms just seem to be lessons that are needed for us to have a comparison of what isn't real compared to what is real.
Well, thank you very much for that. Is there anybody else that would like to add anything? Well, I think that's going to wrap it up today. If nobody else has anything else to say, I'd like to end the show today by everybody joining in at the same time and singing "New You You," and then we'll end the program. So if everybody's ready, and 3, 2, 1, everybody sing "New You You," and we'll say goodbye. All right, New You, New You, New You, You. Well, thank you, everybody. A wonderful show, and we'll see you next time.